Hello, everybody, and welcome to KFC SuperCoach TV. We're one round into the 2022 season, and there's already plenty to talk about. Luckily, we have the best SuperCoach minds here to do that. Al Paton here from the Herald Sun, joined by the Phantom from the Advertiser, Dan Begala, the KFC SuperCoach investor, and Tom Rockliff, SuperCoach superstar himself, to get into all the issues. Normally, after round one, we don't want to make too many rash decisions. You just don't want to make big calls just based off one game. So we try not to trade this week if we can. But it's going to be difficult, I think, because some of the news that's come through just in the last 12 or 24 hours, there's some pretty big KFC SuperCoach names that are in doubt or won't play this week. And we're already getting our first taste of what COVID might do to the AFL season and our KFC SuperCoach team. So quickly, Phantom, how do you think we should? Is it panic stations, or are we just trying to digest everything that's going on before we tear our team up and start again?
Hello, Al. Pleasure to be back for KFC SuperCoach TV in season. The People's Champs here, the People's Pigs here. It's a good crew here to talk about a big week. Ideally, always want more than 1 week's data to make some big decisions in our KFC SuperCoach team going in or going out. So plenty to talk about, but from my end, I'll be holding pretty tight this week. But again, some other teams have some different problems to think about.
And Dan, we haven't spoken to you since round one. How did the Begala Brigade perform, and what are you thinking leading into round two?
Thanks for having me, and what a privilege to be here with someone that can crack the SuperCoach double ton in Rocky. It's a small brethren of players that have done that, but welcome to Rocky today. But you started well, 23-17, so a pretty good start. But had a few mates that eclipsed me by about 100 points on the back of Jack Hayes and Nick Martin getting them on the field. But otherwise, everything looks good. Portfolio is performing well. And tonight, I've got 5 players in action, all of whom, touch wood, continue to avoid COVID for the rest of the season. But lots of things to consider. I mean, there's a few people I've considered jettisoning out straight away. However, like the Phantoms just said, we've got 35 trades. We've got them for a reason. So I'll be holding firm this week, get another point of data in round 2. And then next week, it's the triple trade. I'm going to go hard and move a few players on. And as I did last year, Lockie Neal and Cripps were the first to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if a Jordan Ridley or a Treloar, if he underperforms tonight, might be on the chopping block for trade next week.
Rocky, your first go at KFC SuperCoach for a while. How did you perform in round one? I think you outscored me for starters.
Yeah, 2-2-9-3. So pretty good. I'm told that's not a bad score for round one. So pretty happy. I probably could have even been a little bit better in hindsight. I had Nick Martin there on the bench, which I think a few people would have, but I didn't have the emergency next to him. But in saying that, I probably would have traded out Rochelle or maybe the option of Will Brodie to shift him onto the bench for that. But I was lucky enough. I got Jack Hayes' 127 by having Bruce sitting there on the field. So I took McRae's score on Wednesday night of 133. I had the vice captain on him and was told that that's a good score. So to make sure that stays as a captain. And then I just had Lloyd not play in the back half of the ground as well. So not too bad, but I was ready to fire trades Monday morning and the Phantom said, just hold your guns for a little bit. So I was thinking crisp for Doherty down back, but I'm still not sure whether to do that or not. But for you guys that have put in all this work for years and years and years, not you, Dan, but for me to come in and outscore you in round one, it's a bit embarrassing on your behalf.
Well, yeah, Rocky messaged me on Monday morning, just waited till he could see my score and then messaged me saying, is 22-92 a good score? Is that? Wait to see he was 50 points ahead of me, but a very good start. Some big decisions to make for him as well. Al, you have a bit of a Dusty Martin issue as well to consider.
Yes, no. So the big news that's come through that really impacts KFC SuperCoach, as Dan mentioned, trying to get through tonight's game with any more COVID outs, and we know that Carlton's had a bit of an outbreak just after the game against Richmond. They could have done it 24 hours earlier, might have worked out all right. But we know Vossi's going to be coaching from home, and some other coaches and staffers, and Jack Martin we knew a couple of days ago, and then it came out yesterday that Adam Chera is also out. I think he's in about 6,000 SuperCoach teams. He scored 120 last week, so it was a pretty good pick if you had him, but have to put him on the bench. And then late last night, we found out Nick Martin at the Bombers will miss through the AFL's health and safety protocols. So he's gone out, played his first game, kicked 5 goals, won the Rising Star nomination, and then he's going to have to stay at home this week and can't play. I don't think he doesn't have COVID himself. He's just a household contact. So hopefully he's doing all the right things and isolating himself so that he can come back the next week. And you think surely he'll come straight back into the Bombers team. But up until yesterday, he was traded into 19,000 KFC SuperCoach teams this week. Everybody wanted to get on Nick Martin, and fair enough. But I think probably want to reverse those trades and make sure you've got emergency some cover on the bench, which thankfully, based on the way that the guys like Jack Hayes and Rochelle went last week, we should be okay. But then we find out this morning that Dustin Martin is taking some personal leave from the Tigers, just having a few days off to sort out some personal dramas, and we don't know really exactly what that is. Damien Hardwick spoke this morning and said that he could play against the Giants on Sunday, but we really don't know. The most important thing is that Dusty, fixes, gets himself right, which is, totally, I think, we're not going to argue with that. We know he's been through some difficult stuff. He spent time in hospital with that horrible injury, and then his dad passed away over summer. So, a bit of a rough time for Dusty. So he's in about 60,000 KFC SuperCoach teams, including mine. So if I put him and Nick Martin on the bench, that's, obviously I'm down to bare bones in the forward line. So it does throw up a few conundrums whether you could think about trading him out. I mean, he scored 100 last week, so he's probably going to be one of the top forwards. You wouldn't normally move out a premium, but given how much value there is on offer, especially in the forward line, could you think about moving him to a Heaney or a DeGoey, or if you miss Zach Butters, someone like that, and pocket a little bit of change? Or you could even go all the way down to someone like a Mitch McGovern or a Brody or a Tristan Zeri and get heaps of money, and that could fix a problem somewhere else. So, the round starts tonight, so I need to think quickly about what I'm going to do. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Dan, what would your thinking be if you had Dusty?
Well, it's a tough one, right? Because there's every chance he gets up and plays and then most likely gets tagged by De Boer. Has a pretty tough day at the office against GWS, who looked quite good against Sydney. But I don't know. I think the thing I learned over the past few years is when there's uncertainty on a player's injury or potential time out of the game, the best thing to do is just exercise the trade, move them on and play on from there, because it might be 1 week, it might not be any weeks, or it could be multiple weeks. And the last thing you want to do is have 520 grand sitting on the bench, not allocated, and creating further capital for your group or creating points. So for me, you've got all round to make the decision, and guess with the new functionality of SuperCoach, you can change as the round goes on if you work that out perfectly. I would probably just keep my eye on Twitter for the next 1 to 2 days, and then if it looks like he's going to miss and there's no certainty of when he's going to come back, unfortunately, I'd probably have to trade. And I wouldn't think it's the worst thing in the world, because in round 3 you'll be able to have the pick of Zeri, McGovern, Brody, whichever one of those 200 grand players you've missed, you'll be able to pick them up and they'll be averaging 85. And you'll be able to reallocate that capital and pick up someone in defence that you've missed, like a Sicily, or pick up someone in the guts that you've missed, like Cripps. So I think there's still some rosy skies on the back of that. It's a challenging circumstance for Dusty. We hope he feels well, but I think there's definitely some opportunity there for the aggressive coach that just moves on and fixes up their team.
I agree. I like the
Yeah.
restructure idea, especially if you're given what we saw from the defensive rookies, and we know how many we don't have back there. I think bring a Sicily, like Dan mentioned, or even if you went one less premium in the midfield and you want to correct that. Jared Berry, some questions coming through about his shoulder. He's got about 50, I think, in the opening term against the Power. Faded a little bit, got a shoulder knock late. The Lions said it's a inflamed shoulder capsule or irritated shoulder capsule or something like that. Maybe Rocky can shine a bit of a light on that. I know he had some shoulder issues in his career, but they said they will get him up. So Jared Berry looks like he will play, but even if he struggles again this week, or like as Dan said, if you want to be aggressive, you want to go up to a premium from him and play the value option in the forward line for Dusty, I don't mind that idea. Rocky, what do you think? You've got Dusty as well.
Yes, this is the first conundrum. I've got Hayes on the bench as a ruck, so I could potentially move him to the forward line, Dusty out, or move Dusty to the bench, trade Dixon and bring in a rookie ruck. But I'm not sure how to do it. Or I could get rid of Dusty, move Hayes to the forward line, and then upgrade a midfielder, maybe a Stevens or something, to someone else. I've got no idea what to do, to be honest. I think I've done pretty well with my rookies and younger guys, even a Matty Rao, who's pretty cheap. I've got him in my team. So, yeah, I'm sort of looking at the team just on the side there, and I don't know how to fix the problem because the two Martins in the forward half are out. I can move Hayes potentially because Bruce is coming back and we think he'll score well. And with Hayes being in the dual position, yeah, a bit of a conundrum, and I don't know what to do.
Well, I think if you can do something with the money, I think you're making money on the trade, and like Dan mentioned, spending it elsewhere is probably the way to go for KFC Supercoaches out there. I don't love the idea of a sideways trade for Dusty. I think you're almost doing a bit of a restructure and improving somewhere else to take advantage of the value in the forward line. So I don't mind the idea of trading Dusty as long as you're improving somewhere else with that money.
Yeah, I think the tricky part is that Jared Berry seems to be the key figure here, and for a lot of people's plans that you could either go down from him, or like you say, if you make $300,000 from a Dusty move down to a $250,000 player, you could then turn Berry into a premium. But we don't really know what's going on with Berry. Like if he's shoulder sore and he has another poor score, well, that seems like probably the smart move. But he could come out this week, and they're playing Essendon, who gave up a few points last week. So what if he scores 110? And, we probably want to keep him because he's going to make a heap of money. So, and yeah, trying to make these decisions after before second round makes it even tougher. So, yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing either yet, Rocky. But yeah, can you give us any insight in that shoulder situation for Jared Berry?
Yeah, shoulders are not fun at all. We understand that. They're probably the most functional joint on your body because you've got to go up, down, sideways, every which way. And we know playing footy, it can be quite restrictive, and your shoulders are probably the most thing that gets hit in a contest or tackle. So there's no doubt Berry will be a little bit sore this week going in. It doesn't seem like it's major damage, but yeah, I think even for a guy like Xavier Dersman to play this week, he'll be under a bit of an injury cloud, and there's not much you can do to protect yourself out there on the field once you get going, because you've got to put your shoulder, pick the ball up, get your shoulder in really awkward positions anyway, and if it's a little bit sore, you might be a bit restrictive in that movement.
Yeah, no, that's tough. Have you got Berry, Dan?
No, I had to squeeze him out last minute because I thought there was a concern around Sicily's COVID status. So I had to restructure my portfolio and ended up with Clary in the guts and going a little shallower in the defence, which is probably not the best move, but I'm stacked in the guts with, I think, Lockie Neal sitting at M5. But I think what we worked out over that first week effectively is that the forward line's replete with rookies, and it's replete with mid-price rookies. So you got the 200,000 rookies, you got the forward line rookies. So I think we know we can take a bit of a risk there. And it reminds me of Supercoach like 5 years ago when we had Jack Steele and then Curvis and a few other guys, Devin Smith. So I feel like you can stack up in the forward line, and you probably could take an aggressive approach with Dusty, short him down to McGovern, Brodie, Zeri, if Zeri performs this week and the three-pronged tools works. But, every decision you make in Supercoach comes with downside risk. And there's a chance that Dusty plays this week, and there's a chance Dusty comes back next week. But with so much uncertainty and the additional buffer of trades, it would be remiss of you not to firstly check how your rookies go. If they perform well, you can hold him for 1 week. If not, pull the trigger and look at going down to one of those guys, but potentially do it next week when you've got another piece of data, as Phantom said earlier. And the more data you have, the better decision making you can make. So it's not the end of the world for Dusty holders, but there are 35% of coaches that have the great man. So I feel sorry for you guys, both you, Rocky and Al, but we'll see how it goes. Team selection, you might get named tonight. You never know.
Yeah. Phantom, Berry, still on that subject. We've got a question here from Corey. He started with Berry, but he doesn't have Rao. We've preached all week, get another week in before you make these decisions. But do you think we can call it after one round that you just have to get Matt Rao in your team?
Yeah, I think we can. How you do it, that's a different question. In that scenario, I wouldn't be trading Jared Berry to Matt Rao this week. Give another week, see how it goes. Jared Berry attended 4 centre bounces, got plenty of footy on the wing in the first half against the Power. But if he comes out and is a little bit inconsistent in his scoring throughout the game, fades in and out, then maybe that's the easy move next week, Jared Berry to Matt Rao. Or, you have another midfield premium, a bit of a point of difference premium who may underperform again. Then you can sort of make money.
Not thinking of Darcy Parish there, right?
Well, Darcy Parish was okay in the second half. He could barely get going in the first half, just like the Bombers. He was got caught there watching the ball, watch his opponent get the ball. Almost turned the TV off at half time. But he did bounce back. I expect him to do similar again this week. But yeah, it's that sort of player. You didn't start without Rao. Sorry, you could make that move next week, bring him in, spend that money elsewhere. But I think even though we can call Matt Rao basically a must-have, I think you can wait another week. Unless you've got a whole lot of issues and you see yourself needing to use more than 3 trades next week ahead of the price rises, I think you can wait.
I think I just solved my problem, actually. I just looked and I could move Dixon from West Coast to the ruck as an emergency, get Jack Hayes on the ground, both Martins on the bench. So I will hold Dusty this week.
So that does require, doesn't it? There's a question here about it. Someone's asked. You would need Bruce to be picked this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I need Bruce to be picked, which he would be. Or I could move Dixon, unless Dixon's not picked either. But
I've got the same now. Begala. I'm not sure if you were following Sean Darcy, ended up taking Jack Hayes' score, trading Darcy down to Bruce to take the score to upgrade to Sicily in defence, and then play Bruce / Jack Hayes at R2 for a while. So I'm on with Rocky there. I'm banking on Braden Bruce getting selected. I think he will be selected. Matt Flynn was good. Matt Flynn has always been solid when he's played. But Leon Cameron has dropped him as well after he's played some good games last year when Mummy come back. So I think they'll play Bruce. I don't think Bruce will play solo without Flynn. But he showed in the Amy series he can score well enough as a forward, do some rucking in the forward half of the ground. And then his hands are great in the ruck that he can win enough hit-outs to advantage, I think, as a second centre bounce man for the Giants. So I'm banking on Bruce too. I'm confident, but yeah, I will still be a little nervous until I see the team tonight.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Now, just got plenty of questions here. Go through some trade ideas that people are toying with. Karen Dan thinking of just sick of Jack Steele after one game. He only scored 87 last week, and Pat Lipinski got about 140. I'd have to say this is the kind of move that we tend to caution people against because those guys, Lipinski could easily score 85 and Steele scores 140 this week.
Yeah, well, I think Steele is an absolute Rolls Royce and just couldn't get going at Marble Stadium on Friday night, unfortunately. But they're the types of players I'd never really move on. Last year, I told everyone I shorted 2 players in round 3. That was Patrick Cripps and Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale was the highest cost player in the game last year. But in both those circumstances, the reason I was willing to move them on rather than hold on was because both throughout the media recognised they're both injured. Neale had a really bad back, and Cripper, I think the same story, might have had a fractured back. So moved them on, reallocated the capital, really improved my team last year, and that worked. But after one round of action, I wouldn't be moving the likes of Jack Steele for Lipinski. Lipinski looks great under Fly McRae, but I'm not going to make a decision on someone who's done 3 to 4 seasons back-to-back of 125 points plus for a bloke that's had a breakout game. Let's see how he goes. Rocky would know what it's like backing up a game when you're 21 years old and doing it week in, week out. I'd like to see how Lipper backs it up, but he's a supreme athlete, good young runner, and I wish him all the best coming when he looks really nice there. Good luck to him.
What about this one, Phantom? 1,000 people have traded out Max Gawn. He gave away about 7 free kicks last week, which cost him probably 120-point score. The only argument there is that someone else asked about Jared Witts. You could just see, a way to save 300 grand. But surely, if you've got Gawn in your team, you're not moving him now.
You're not. And even if you were going to go down that sort of Witts path, it's absolutely not going to be until next week, until you get another week. So I think those 1,084 people need to reverse their trades, need to hold it. 35 trades sounds like a lot. We say this every year at this point of the season, but they do run out pretty quickly. We've got 5 extra. I think they'll still run out pretty quickly with people using that trade boost pretty early. So definite hold on Max Gawn.
What about another guy that I know you did start with, Adam Treloar? A little bit underwhelming in round 1, and given all those great value options we talked about in the forward line, is he someone you could sacrifice, or you got to stick with him?
I'll definitely stick with him for another week. I'll be hoping to stick with him for a little bit longer than that. We know his teammate Tim English was very good. He's going to ruck solo again on Thursday night. He's at a similar price in the forward line and could provide some cover there in the ruck going forward. So, you could consider that. But I'm backing Adam Treloar to bounce back. He had 25 touches, kicked a couple of goals last Wednesday night. Burnt the ball a little bit. We know he's a bit rushed when he gets the ball at times. But yes, he's always going to do that potentially. But I think he's definitely better than 79. And I'm not too worried about him. I think his role was still good. He started at the first centre bounce for the Dogs. So I think he'll bounce back on Thursday night. Rocky, got one for you. A few questions coming in about new rookies. We know the big ones who scored well in round one. Plenty of injuries at Port. We don't like injuries in footy, but could create some opportunity for a couple of KFC SuperCoach rookies, Sam Skinner, Josh Sin. What do you think of their chances in for round two and going forward?
Yeah. Have you got me?
Yeah. Got you.
Yep.
Josh Sin,
sorry.
Sam Skinner.
Yeah, sorry. I think my phone rang. It goes through my computer. Sorry. Back now. Skinner, I think, definitely plays. I think with Aaliyah going out and a doubt on McKenzie, definitely will come into that fold. He's a big, strong, aggressive back. Makes himself felt really well. Intercept mark. I'm not sure he's a huge scorer. Hopefully he handballs a bit more than he kicks once he takes them up, just to retain possessions. But I think he definitely plays. And I think Sin will come in as well. I popped down to training this morning to have a look at Port Adelaide, and there's still a couple of sore bodies there, I think. So I think Motlop will definitely start, even if Sin potentially sub. But I would imagine he will play. We had a look, and there were so many sore boys last week. I'm not sure whether Dursby gets up. He trained today and looked okay, but yeah, just not sure on that. I would definitely bring Skinner in. I'd be 100% confident that he plays sitting here right now. Sin, I'd be 80% confident that he plays, if not higher.
I think Rocky with
and if you want to know
Sam
about
Skinner,
Sin, he's just
sorry, I was going to jump in there.
Sorry,
With
Phantom.
just on Sam Skinner. Obviously, Aaliyah is going to be out for a little while, so we need these guys to have a good crack at it, and that's the concern with some of the other rookies we picked in round one. They might fall out of the side. Potentially a Brady Huff with the influx of players returning at the Eagles, but Skinner could be one we could see for the next month, given Aaliyah's absence.
Yeah, I think with Aaliyah being out and Cleary, if Cleary was fit, we know he probably would have played round one. He's still 3 or 4 weeks off as well. McKenzie is touch and go whether he plays this week. I don't think he'll play this week. So Skinner definitely plays minimum 3 games, I think, minimum 2 or 3 games, if not longer. Once we get in, we've seen what's happened in the past. Port Adelaide are pretty consistent. If you're playing well, they're not going to then shift you out of the team. We've seen it with Cleary last year. He was one of the best defenders in the comp in the first half of the season, broke his jaw, unfortunately, and then couldn't get back in because McKenzie played so well down there. So the good thing at Port Adelaide is they'll back you in if you're playing really good footy, and they'll continue to play. So if Skinner comes in and can play his role, then it's his to lose. And yeah, so I think he plays multiple games. I was just going to say Sin. We know what he can do. He's an excitement in running carrier, long left kick at 60, but he's a potential meter player by the time he runs and then kicks the ball. Certainly the meters game will add up very quickly.
There's another question here for you, Rocky, from Abdul about Dan Houston. Did you start him in your side, and what role do you think he'll have in the Port Adelaide team? Is he a safe bet to? Well, he's probably not going to score 150 points every week, but he could be a good buy.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he'll stay on the wing, but as we just touched on with the injuries, there is a potential that he may have to go back now, potentially play half back. But I wouldn't see him moving off the wing to start the game. I think they've got enough defenders down there that can cover that. Running half backs involves. I imagine Houston will stay around the contest. I think he has to. He's too important to the way they play for him to shift back now. We know that he can get his hands on it at the clearance, but then also his delivery inside 50 and his ability to knock goals over from around 50 or 60 metres out is still important to take him away from that space. So I don't think his role will change. I think he'll stay on the wing as it stands at the moment, a little bit of inside, and then if required to go back, if something dramatic happens again or drastically happens where they lose a few few more defenders, which touch wood, hopefully their injury luck is over. He'll stay on the wing.
Yeah, I think we just talk up our man here. You know, talked up Dan Houston last week in his article on the SuperCoach Live TV. Delivered as well, went huge on the weekend. So well done to Rocky for the Dan Houston call.
Yep,
That's
100%.
what us good coaches do, Phantom.
One for you, Dan, as a Carlton man. I really like the look of Corey Durden last week. Scored about 70 points against the Tigers, and he was one I was looking at if, as Phantom mentioned, a Brady Hoff or Mitch Owens looks like they might struggle to keep their place in the team. And if I've got a few issues with my midfield rookies, I could potentially bring in a Durden in my forward line and move Josh Rochelle up to the midfield and play him there, which would sort of solve a couple of issues for me. But now that there's some other things going on, I might hold off on that one. But he's definitely someone I'm watching for next week. And then George Hewitt scored 133 or 132 or something last week. Is he one that you'll be watching this week? I don't know if you started him, but to potentially bring him in before the price rises, or is I'm not sure how it's all going to work with Sam Walsh coming back in, but then no Chera. So I'd sort of like to see the full Carlton midfield in action to know exactly where he fits in there. But unfortunately, we're probably not going to get a chance to see that before his price starts to go through the roof.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess we're going to be left in the lurch here because we're going to have two circumstances where we're not going to see Carlton's best midfield. The best midfield is obviously Cripps, Walsh, Chera. That's probably the starting three with Pitnet in the ruck. I just thought when I watched that Melbourne Carlton game in the preseason, he really passed the eye test. I thought new role at Carlton. He's renowned for being a good kick on both sides of his body. He's hard. He's workmanlike. He's got a great attitude, and he does the defensive facet of the game. So that's why I picked him. I thought if he's not getting much of the footy, he'll still do a great job and accumulate 8 to 10 tackles and get himself an octopus, as they say, 10 tackles, octopus. I've been watching him, and obviously in that game, he really ratcheted up in the fourth quarter when him and Cripps just put the Superman cape on, and they both kicked goals, and he got that lucky 50-metre penalty. But what I saw in that game was enough to warrant, like, in the game of SuperCoach, you ideally want to pick as many midfielders who play as forwards in SuperCoach, and you want to pick as many midfielders who play as defenders in SuperCoach. So George Hewitt is bona fide midfielder. Once we get our best squad back, being Walsh, Cripps, Shearer, I think he sits as the fourth mid. But Rocky will attest you can't throw 3 Rolls Royces into every centre bounce. You need someone playing defensively. And I honestly think that's what Hewitt's job is to do, and he does it really well. So I'm adamant it's a good pick. I look forward to watching him tonight, and I'm glad he's not in so many teams. I think he's in 24% of teams or something like that. So it feels like a pod. Cripps also feels like a pod. But yeah, for Hewitt, in terms of acquiring him, I think it's only round 3 you can do that. You can only do it in round 3 once he's had another blinder tonight. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he does that. But yeah, I don't think now is a good time because, again, we are going to see a different makeup next week when Chera comes back into the fold. But COVID's a very interesting paradigm that we're dealing with. Someone else like Cripps or anyone could be out of the team next week. So I'm big on Hewitt. I'm long Hewitt. I'm long Cripps. And I just saw 2 blokes in the preseason that had too many positive indicators on them that suggested they were ready to have a big year. So I'm big, but wait till next week on all those players.
What about this man, Alex, saying we have to speak about the burn man? I think it's a bit early to call him a burn man after one game, but Jack Crisp, only the 69 points last week, a lot less than what all his owners, including me, were hoping for. Now, if people haven't seen it, his partner, I think, put a video out on socials, which was very funny, about bugging Jack about his SuperCoach and about his fantasy points, and that he needs to be really concentrating on that all week and figuring out how he's going to repay the faith for all his fantasy owners. Phantom, are you a Jack Crisp owner, and are you worried about him?
I am, and I wasn't overly worried even before that video. I'm definitely locked on now after seeing that. It was very, very good. My question is, what if he does struggle again? What's he going to do next week? I'll be interested to see that. But the only thing I am concerned about, he only had 16 touches. Collingwood had 388 as a team. That was the 3rd highest for the round. So plenty of ball for the Magpies. He didn't get involved like he normally does. And we know Nick Dacos got a lot of footy. Pat Lipinski got a lot of the footy. But I don't think that's going to happen every week. They definitely have a lot of guys that are going to spread the footy around between each week, and more so than last year. But I think Jack Crisp too good a player to win 16 disposals every week. So I think he'll bounce back this week, and I think he'll be more up than down. Yes, there'll be some weeks that those guys will take a bit of footy off him, but I think he'll be more up than down. And last year, he scored 84 points, I think, in round 1, came out the next week and scored 122. So definitely going to back him in for at least another week, Jack Crisp.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was a little bit tempted to just thinking, well, what would I lose if I just did a straight swap to Aaron Hall? Because I'm really annoyed that I didn't even think of putting him back in my team. I had him back in January or whenever SuperCoach first opened, but then took him out when he had that hamstring issue. But he just looks like he's going to be a scoring machine again every week. But yeah, we don't want to use trades if we don't have to. Yeah, some breaking news here from Sam's letting us know that Nat Fyfe is not going to play again this week. So that's probably good news for Will Brodie, I would have thought. Rocky, did you end up starting Brodie? I know you were pretty keen on him.
Yeah, I did. I started Brodie. He was pretty solid with, I think, what did he end up scoring there? 76 points. 76. So I think his game time was quite low as well, or game time percentage. He certainly works hard, and hopefully we can get the rotations right, and he spends a little bit extra time on the ground. But he was, I thought he was pretty good return for 220-odd thousand, I think 76 points. So with Fyfe being out, and it seems like he might be out for a little bit longer, I thought Brodie was pretty important around the contest, reasonably clean. And there was a couple of times he could have been used in those forward stoppages to potentially knock some goals over. He was right there for a handball receive and didn't get it. So, yeah, I'll continue to back him in.
Yeah, I think it was 20 minutes of the last quarter he sat on the bench, and that was obviously he's not a huge game time sort of player. Maybe he doesn't quite have the tank, but I think a bit of that was he just got caught on the wrong side of the ground, which was unlucky with a close finish as well. He could have easily added another 15 or 20 points, and that would have been a great return. I've had a few questions about Sam de Koning, who's out with concussion protocols. I'd have to do the maths on when the Cats exactly play. If he might end up missing 2 games rather than just the one, but I'm definitely not planning on trading him. I guess we just hope that you have enough defensive cover on the bench, which was a bit of an issue for people last week. But I picked Josh Gibcus, who, a bit more than I would have liked to pay for a defensive rookie. But this basically is why, just to have some insurance, because I think he's pretty safe in the Richmond team. I think Nick Vostone's probably out for a little bit longer, which is disappointing from a Richmond point of view. But and with Jack Riewoldt out, they probably need Noah Bolter down the forward line as well. So I think there's definitely a spot there for Gibcus. And I thought he showed a few good signs last week. So probably happy to at least put the E on him. Hopefully probably don't have to put him on the field. But I think we'd be pretty happy, Phantom, would you say? Mitch Hinge, only the 50 points. I thought was a little bit under, so I don't think he played too bad. And Paddy McCartan was really good.
Yeah, I think, he's just had to... Yeah, I had Hinge. I thought he actually would have scored a little bit better than that, but not too bad. So he, I think he ended up with 50-odd points there across the wing. I think he has an ability to score a lot higher than that. I think Lloyd, is he back this week? Was he in health and safety last week?
He was,
for Sydney. So yeah, I think there's a few nice options down back. I had the Conan as well. I think he'll just miss the one game. I'm not exactly sure when Geelong play, but yeah.
Now moving on to captains and vice captains, and Rocky obviously all over the loophole there. So Dan, looking at, do we go tonight? Yep. I suppose one thing about De Koning is we know there's a loophole there. The Cats play tomorrow night, so it really means you would have to take a punt on someone in tonight's game unless you've got another zero somewhere, which a few of us might well, especially, I'm not sure, when do the Bombers play? That's Nick Martin is out on Saturday, I think. So that gives you another day. But there's a few pretty good options in tonight's game. I didn't VC Jack McRae last week, and I should have. So I'm going to do it this week, because if I don't do it again and miss out on another 135 points, I'm going to regret it for the rest of the year. So that's a pretty simple one for me. But there's a few other good choices there at the Bulldogs and Carlton if they play the way they did last week.
Yeah, tonight I'm tossing up whether I just go with the tried and tested route of VC McRae. It's a good option. He's a fantastic player, and he just normally gets 130 most weeks. But the 2 players I have an eye on this week, because they have great records against their opposition, is Clayton Oliver as captain at the Gold Coast. He absolutely loves playing them. Like, I think he's had the last 3 might be 145 plus. I'm pretty adamant, and I think he had a 170 in there at some stage. And the other fella is Brisbane's Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale loves playing against Essendon. And I think you'll attest to this last year. I think you picked him up last year and he got a 150 in the wet and he just had the ball on the string. So I'm thinking it'll either be McRae Neale or it'll be Neale Oliver. That's sort of where I'm heading. But look, it's very hard. Like, I paid $700,000 for McRae. So it feels remiss of me not to take advantage of that and probably put the VC there tonight. But that's the safe option. Otherwise, I'm going Neale into Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That was Neil had about 3 good games last year, and that was the night that I traded him out and swapped him to Ridley, and Ridley got concussed in the first quarter, and Neil scored about 160. So wasn't my favourite night of playing Supercoach. The other player I think worth a look this weekend for the people who he's not in a heap of teams, but if you've got Josh Kelly against Richmond's midfield, I think he averages about 150 in his last 3 against Richmond, and based on how the Blues scored last week, and there may not even be a Dustin Martin this week, I think he's going to get plenty of the footy on Sunday. Phantom, are you back with us? We had a couple of little technical issues there.
I'm back. What about Tom Green against the Tigers?
Oh, yeah, geez. You could, if you had him, that'd be a bold move, but geez, I think he's going to get plenty of it as well. And unfortunately, it's probably too early to trade him in. Like, he'd want to see 2 games, but I'd be backing him in for another pretty big score.
Yeah, no, McRae into Steele for me. Pretty boring, as mentioned, but
Steele
can't go
or
past.
Neil?
Sorry, Jack McRae into Lachie Neale. That was my combination. Darcy Parish, I'm expecting him to bounce back, I think, in a big way, but can't go past. Jack McRae and Lachie Neale for me.
Jack Steele against the Dockers, I think. So, we'll see how he goes. Surely he'll bounce back after last week, but it'd probably be a brave move to put the captaincy on him. A few people suggesting Josh Dunkley might go all right again tonight. I think you went McRae, did you say last week, Rocky? Will you be doing that again?
Yeah, I will. I'll start with McRae, and if he gets somewhere around that score, I'll be taking the score, the loophole. But yeah, I think I'll have to do Lachie Neale as well. I think he matches up really well, and the potential of no Zorko. I think we seen Zorko play off halfback last week and didn't really work for Brisbane. They moved him in the midfield, started to get his hands on it in that third quarter. So I think Lachie Neale will continue to get his midfield minutes. I don't think they're going to try him anywhere else, as they sort of half bluff that they might try him in a different position. I think you'll see Lachie Neale as a mainstay mid all season. So I'll put the C on him. And if McRae's doesn't get a high enough score tonight, I'll back Lachie in.
Yeah, no, I like the sound of that. Now, we finish off with our zinger of the week, of course. Now, Rocky seems to be copying it every time he comes on, which is pretty rough. We love having him here. He obviously knows how to play Supercoach, and he was an absolute gun at it when he played. But Ryan here is asking if you can remember your Lions debut, how you went, and what you might have ended up in terms of a Supercoach score.
Ooh,
do you have much of a memory of your first game?
Yeah, Supercoach wouldn't have. You would have probably passed up on me. I had 5 possessions, maybe 1 tackle, did not trouble the scorers. Played as a half forward, so yeah, that was my only game for the 2009 season. Simon Black's 250th of the MCG, a night to remember, but also forget.
I've got it.
Yes,
I got it. 12 KFC SuperCoach points for Tom Rockliff on debut. But we know he quickly bounced back, average 86 in the next season. I think he's got 78, 96 in his next 2 games. So a pretty good start. Obviously, that was the following year, but 12 KFC SuperCoach points on debut for Rocky.
Well, if you only played the 1 game in that season, that's actually a pretty smart way to play it, because we don't like it when players come out and score well in 1 game. It makes them too expensive the next year. So,
One to pick
so
himself.
well played. Yeah, exactly. All right, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. For 1 round of footy, and normally, as I say, we try to keep things fairly stable after round 1. You don't want to go making too many moves, but there's a fair bit to think about there. Dusty's probably the big one. Nick Martin, I think if you've got him, you just want to be sitting him on the bench, and he'll be back next week, hopefully. And we'll keep an eye on the Dusty news. And as Dan said, look, he might play on Sunday, and it won't even be an issue, but. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. So watch all our of the heraldsuns.com.au, advertiser.com.au, Code Sports as well. Get all your Supercoach there. One thing quickly to mention too is that round 2, make the most of Supercoach Plus, live scores during the game, and all the great Supercoach Plus features. The free trial expires after round 2. So do everything you can with Supercoach Plus this week. And then next week, if you haven't already, worth signing up for. It's free with a Masthead subscription or a Code Sports subscription, or you can get a year pass for about $24.95 for Supercoach Plus. So don't miss out on that. Thanks, Phantom, Dan, Rocky. Been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.